Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the Winnipeg Jets, a team that is gaining some space in their division and then seeing if the Central is finally theirs. But before we get started with that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. Being said, let's get on into it. So Winnipeg has never won their division since moving back to Manitoba in 2011. They have finished as runners-up on 4 occasions, with one of those actually being last year, where they saw the Dallas Stars go out there and claim the Central. So, there's been some painful moments. But Winnipeg is going into this season, or went into this season, saying it's a new year, maybe things could be different for us. And so far, it looks like they might be able to say that, as they have a 7-point lead in their division and are currently, again, at the top of the Central. So you're wondering if this is actually going to be the year that they are the best. Are they capable of being the best out of 8 teams? And while we can't say that this is a done deal, they have done their part to try to get off to a good start and help themselves win the division. They had 14 wins in their first 15 games in NHL record, although ironically they actually lost their spot at the top of the division not too long after that, because the Minnesota Wild got off to a fantastic start as well, and that paired with the Jets going 3-7-0 over a 10-game period actually saw Scott Arniel's side slip to, I believe, just second in the division, and then Minnesota kind of got to run with it for a little bit. But since December 5th, the Jets have actually been able to do pretty well. They have the second best points percentage in the league over that time. They also have 13 wins over that period. And then Minnesota, meanwhile, has kind of been in a little bit more of a rut. Nothing too crazy, but they've gone 10-10-0, and they have fallen from that top spot. Meaning, of course, that it is Winnipeg that is back in the driver's seat for the division, even though, again, the Wild are still pretty close. So is this, again, saying that this is just a 2-horse race? I'm going to say no right now. The obvious reason being that the Dallas Stars are really close behind the Minnesota Wild right now. They have been really good for a bit here, and they are just 1 point back of Minnesota, meaning they're 8 points back of Winnipeg. This is a team that's been good for a while now, that literally just won the division last year, and is probably hoping that they have enough time to go out there and catch up to a team like Winnipeg. And then you have the Colorado Avalanche, who are a side that is separated by the Jets and them by a country mile, I think about 20 points. But Colorado is looking good for a sustained period of time and is hoping to maybe go on a tear and have maybe a side like Winnipeg stumble along the way to where they could separate, or close that gap, I should say. And this is going to be one of those deals where you don't really think the Avs are going to do it, but it would be crazy if it did. It would be a huge storyline. At the end of the day, though, looking at this for Winnipeg, they're in the divisional lead. They have a good cushion, and they're in a better spot compared to most teams, or I should say some other teams that are leading the division. The Toronto Maple Leafs, the Florida Panthers aren't too far behind them. The Vegas Golden Knights are tied, I think, with the Oilers, thanks to Edmonton having the best points percentage for a very long time now. They've gone on yet another heater, but they are in a good spot. The Jets are compared to them. And then, of course, too, you have the other team, which is the Washington Capitals. It has a nice little cushion as well in the Metro. So two teams can say, oh, we have a little bit of room for error, whereas the other two don't. And again, this is going to be something where you can't say that every single record is going to be broken this year. This may not be the season that shatters all of those glass ceilings that they've had so far. But if they win the division, that would be fantastic, as that would be their first major accomplishment in terms of regular season success since they've arrived. Obviously, they've had some good years, but they've never been able to win the division. They do have that conference finals appearance, which they could say is probably the highlight of the franchise's history. It would be, definitely. And then you realize that there are other opportunities too here for this season. The President's Trophy is actually there up for grabs at the moment. They've had some years where they could have won it, but then some other teams in their division were just a little bit better. And that's always a hard part of having these bigger divisions, realizing that a team could be separated by 3 or 4 points, and that team that's in their division ends up winning the President's Trophy, and then they're second in the division, when in reality they're like 3rd or 4th in the league, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. But for the Jets, this could be another major accomplishment for the season, and it would be another major thing that you could say for the year that you could get out of the way, because winning the President's Trophy is really hard to do, and it's certainly harder to do than just winning your division, but doing 2 of those in 1 year would be big. And who knows, maybe this would be the magical year where they do go out there, win the division, win the President's Trophy, win the Western Conference, and then go out there and claim the Stanley Cup all in one fell swoop. I know, again, that is getting a little bit optimistic, but that's what fans are supposed to do for their teams when they're having good years and they look like they could go on a run. the Jets are a side that may be able to do that, even though last year ended early for them. And I think this would be a big year for the team if they won the division as well, because it would mean a lot for the players. Some of these guys could be Winnipeg lifers, and they have been through all of those really, really bad early exits in the postseason, and just having something like this would be nice to say, as well as building off of it. You don't think that those locker room speeches would go crazy saying, we've never done this, let's check that off the box. We've never done this, let's check this off the box. Or you could literally use it as an example of this is your legacy. This is something that you can have attached to you. A guy like Connor Hellebuck, prime example here. Let's say that he goes out and wins at the Vezina. He could say, I'm a 3-time Vezina winner, a guy that won the division, first-time division winner in the team's history, as well as possibly the President's Trophy, and took us to a ton of playoff appearances, as well as being a starter for a very, very long time for the team. Not only that, but one of the best goalies in the league in that time. I think that is important for some of these guys and their legacies, but I also think it's important in terms of knocking down the doors for this, not only for the guys currently, but for future generations of Jets players, to where they don't have to have as much pressure on them, where you'll see a lot of these organizations that haven't had any success for years that will be like, oh, well, it's been a long time. And then they feel kind of that pressure because of past generations' failures. Whereas this case, you get rid of some of that and then allow them to say, oh, we can do our own thing and try to win the second division, but it's not like the pressure of the city and the province and whatnot are all on us as we are trying to just win our first division. And ultimately, I would like to see the Jets go out there and win the Stanley Cup this year, even though it may be hard to do, just because I think that a lot of times you'll see teams that never won a Stanley Cup get erased almost from fans' memories from decades past about some teams that were really good. Whereas if you win even one Stanley Cup, it almost highlights your other accomplishments, even though there might have been early failures. Think of the 90s Red Wings, 97, 98. Those Red Wings teams ended up winning the Cup, but also they had some pretty big failures before. They lost to the New Jersey Devils in the Stanley Cup Final in 1995, which was seen as pretty embarrassing at the time. They had been beat by the Avalanche before as well too, but they had achieved a lot in that time as well. And I think that those Stanley Cup victories were able to kind of bring that all in as a positive rather than a negative. It is still one day at a time though for the Jets. Are they going to win their division is all part of that. And I think for right now, the answer is as long as things continue where they're at, they should. If they get to about 60-some games and they still have a decent cushion, I'm going to say that they'll go out there and do it. Is this going to be just the absolute best thing for the team in the world? No, because again, only the Stanley Cup can be considered the best thing. But I do think that for some organizations, especially a younger franchise like Winnipeg, and the fact that they haven't even been in the city for 15 years, it would be a really big deal for a market that really does care about the team and that, of course, hasn't been able to see a lot of Stanley Cups like some Original Six franchises. Mind you, I know some of you are probably going to say, Winnipeg's attendance is terrible. Have you seen ticket prices? So anyway, that is just my talking point about the Jets for today, talking about if they'd win the division, some of the things that would be good for it, and at the end of this, they will still be a very good team that'll make the playoffs and have the opportunity to go out there and still win the Stanley Cup even if they don't win their division, which isn't a big deal. So that all being said, what are your thoughts on the Jets? Do they win their division? Do they win the Cup? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey already. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.